Hello friends and astrology lovers. This is the second video for May. The first one was dedicated to each zodiac sign individually. Take a look at it if you're interested in that what May and partly June brings specifically to your zodiac sign. So that video is called May 2021 for all zodiac signs. Here we are going to talk in details about the transits in May and the archetypes that are appearing now with the constellation of the planets. And we will talk about especially about the effect of the transits on the mundane level. So let's see first lunar activity. Today when I'm recording this, it is the May 11th and it is going to happen new moon in Taurus sign. Full moon is going to be on the 26th in Sagittarius, which is also a total lunar eclipse in the same sign. So now we are entering the period of eclipses. Let me mention a few important transits. The Sun is going to be in Taurus until the 20th and then in Gemini. Saturn will be retrograde from the May 23rd until next year, and it is turning retrograde and the 13th degree. Then Jupiter from May 14 to July 29 is going to transit through the sign of Pisces. So Jupiter is changing the sign, and it is happening only for 2 months and a half this year. Next year Jupiter will stay the whole year in the sign of Pisces. Then Mercury is retrograde from May 30th in Gemini. Venus is in the first 9 days, or it was, in Taurus, and now in the second part of May will be in Gemini. Then Mars is in Cancer in its weak position. Let me mention a few aspects. The first 10 days were basically quite good because Venus which was in Taurus, had good aspects, so this promises some regeneration. And then Mercury, on the 12th, Mercury is going to be in Gemini, trine Saturn. 12th is going to be a good day for business agreements and maybe even trade. Then on the 17th, Sun is going to be in Taurus, trining Pluto. It is a very good day for business or money, agriculture and similar things. On the 19th, Venus in Gemini trines Saturn is good for relationship and also trade. On 29th, Mercury is going to be in Gemini together with Venus, conjunction with Venus, which is very charming combination, very poetic at the same way. It's ideal for developing many skills actually, great for negotiation, good also for diplomacy and trade. So that's how we are going to finish this month according to aspects. The month of May began after a very, very intense full moon that happened on April 27 in Scorpio, and we saw their radicalization of political events. So already at the end of April, there was a lot of activity on the Scorpio-Taurus axis, and this axis is, of course, going to be significant the whole May. Of course, if we talk about Taurus, we have to talk about Scorpio because it is on the other side of the Taurus. So now we have many planets in Taurus, but we have to consider those planets in connection with Scorpio. Scorpio-Taurus axis is the axis of life and death. It is the axis of flourishing and dying, the axis of money, food, basic existence in biological, physical and material form. And many see that many dramatic events are happening in those areas now. The planets in Taurus make trine to Pluto, which is also in the Earth sign. It is in the sign of Capricorn. And indeed, existential and material issues are very emphasized. We are not in that big trouble as we could be. And those who are ready to create changes in some material sphere of life, they're going to be lucky in the next period. So we have to say that it is important now to have willingness to do something new. And this new constellation, this Manson constellation, is very good. It is in favor of people who are able to develop their talents and abilities and give them the concrete form. So many now feel the need to create new forms in the material world and establish new order. This is true both on mundane level and in the life of individuals. This is especially felt by Taurus, Scorpio, Gemini, Libra people, and also Capricorn people, especially those who have planets in the last decade of Capricorn. So it is time for new skills and new talents to develop. In May, the mentioned heavy energies of Scorpio and Taurus are mixed with the fast and easy and somehow enterprising energy of Gemini and Sagittarius. We see this through aspects of the planets also, and by watching the transit of the Sun through the tropical zodiac. On the Taurus-Scorpio axis, the issue is resources. Resources is now the big issue. And as you most probably know, people are struggling for resources for many centuries already. Even if it seems completely crazy, it is what people are doing. Today, people are just resources. We are just resources also, according to some. There is a new term that is offered to us. The term is human resources. And this term is easily accepted by everybody. Like, it doesn't matter that people are, for somebody, just resources. For many, this looks normal, but it's not normal. So, when we speak about resources, where are the biggest resources of this world? Of course, in Russia. And this is why is this space the subject of attacks since the Napoleon time. This is very, very painful point for the West, for the Western world, because they could not colonize it as they wanted to do, as they did with other parts of the world. The creators of today's world politics, in terms of security, when they speak about security, they actually consider the violation of their economic interests. So now when they speak about security, that we are in danger because of somebody or something, they actually speak about that they have trouble with their economic interests. Please notice this. When Western Alliance talks about security, it actually talks about their interests. Their interests are endangered. Misusing of terms is one of the biggest trouble that we are facing now. And this is the crucial thing for manipulation with people. Why I'm speaking now about this, how they use wrong terminology, because by using wrong terminology, they manipulate people. This is because of the axis of Sagittarius and Gemini and eclipses that are happening there. So we need to learn things about that, how people use terms, how they speak, how they use words, and what they really mean when they say something. But as we approach the end of the month, it will be easier, regardless of the pivotal events that are signified by the eclipses that are going to happen in May and June. And it's interesting that today's Russia celebrates its birthday on the June 12th, which means that they identified themselves with the Gemini sign. And now there is a huge pressure on Russia, and they have to defend themselves, and also by defending themselves, they will defend one big part of the world. Saturn is retrograde from the May 23rd, and it turns retrograde on the 13th degree. It will return to the same degree only in January of the year 2022. So only then will the entire cycle of retrograde period end. The retrograde periods of Saturn are especially significant for individuals and for the collective. When Saturn is retrograde, people have the opportunity to integrate what this transit has prepared in its previous direct motion. In our current case, it is from the end of the year 2020 until the May 2021. So something happened in this period, and later, next 6 months, the world has the opportunity to integrate that what already happened. So in the next 7 months, there will be significant negotiations and divisions at the level of regions, countries, and even divisions of interests of the great powers of the world. What is not done now will be done during the year 2022, when Saturn will once again, for the last time, be retrograde in Aquarius, which means that another significant series of events will follow, as well as their integration. And only after the Saturn will leave Aquarius in early months of the year 2023, then the whole process will end. And the same thing will happen approximately in 30 years from now on. So the last time Saturn was retrograde in Aquarius was in the year 1992, then at 18 degrees, but degrees I'm not going to mention that much now. So that year was of exceptional importance for Slavic people, as well as for the whole world. We would not be mistaken at all if we said that everything we live now is the consequence of the early 90s, when Saturn was in Aquarius also, as it is now. Many say that the Third World War started then. Of course, it is not just about classical warfare, but about the using new methods of war. Please find out for yourself what happened then in the year 1992. These were years where new states and new borders were created, especially in Slavic countries, and where this relationship between Russia and USA were reconsidered. Now I will mention few events. In the year 1992 was proclaimed Republic Srpska in ex-Yugoslavia. Also, there was separation between countries in Bosnia and Herzegovina in ex-Yugoslavia. The new state was proclaimed, that was Yugoslavia, but Yugoslavia is a federal state that was combined of Serbia and Montenegro. There were big fights, big war in Sarajevo, and there were then that new Yugoslavia received sanctions, as Russia now has sanctions from the West. Then that was the time of the end of the Cold War, with the declaration signed by Yeltsin and Bush. It was also the same year, 1992. And then agreement happened about the partition of Czechoslovakia. So Czechoslovakia was divided in Czech and Slovak Republic. So they divided this country without war, but Yugoslavia was not possible to divide without war. Other things that happened, there were files open about Nazis in Argentina in the year 1992. As you most probably know, after the Second World War, Nazis left Europe, they went to Latin America countries and to America, and they enjoyed life there. And that was the secret until the 1992 for many. Then the same year there was a referendum against apartheid in South Africa. If you don't know what was apartheid in South Africa, study that. It is really useful to know for us all in our today's condition. I will explain shortly why. So all of the events of the year will somehow be completed now. I mean, of that year, 1992, will somehow be completed now in the year 2021 and in the year 2022. And we will now witness the repetition of similar themes, and we will see a change in the relationship between America and Russia, which already underway from the end of April. And we will see the creation of new borders in the states of former Yugoslavia, maybe all Balkans, and possibly in other Slavic countries. Things are happening in Ukraine now. The topic will again somehow be the secret files of the Nazis, which are, let me mention, now very, very active. And also we will see the topic of apartheid somehow, in some form, as evidenced by forced and programmed division of people into those who received the let's say it, vaccination, and those who did not receive it. The creators of this project in some countries of Europe put up posters, and they wrote on these posters that those who don't get this, that they should go to prison. These are, of course, neo-fascist, neo-Nazi slogans, which are very dangerous. We need to know about them. We need to know who is creating this propaganda, and to be ready to somehow to stop this, or let's say not to accept this divination between those who are this and those who are not that. I guess you know what I mean. I use the word vaccination even if I am trying not to use it. So they're trying to separate people. You will probably remember that a year ago I spoke in a video called Saturn in Aquarius, Freedom and Restrictions, Pyramids and Networks, about significant political developments ahead and about border changes in the world and divisions in the world. And there are also a few shorter videos of this video, so I suggest you to look at that video about Saturn in Aquarius, as I'm not going to repeat all that now. So as I mentioned, now when I'm recording this, we are witnessing the first peak in the tense relations between America and Russia. But since the square between Saturn and Uranus is active all year round, which I specifically talk about also in the annual video talk Let It Burn, I assume that a state of great tension means that there is not going to be a great conflict. And there is an attempt made by Russia, first of all, to hold the whole situation, to accept the state of tension, but not to go into a huge war. Now there is a huge pressure on Russia, but we are going closer and closer to the collapse of the globalist plan to conquer the world. So let's hope that this tension actually means that we and Russia itself will resist the fight. Let me remind you also about the square between Saturn and Uranus that I spoke about in that video, Let It Burn. That is definitely the most important aspect in the year 2021. The current cycle of these two planets begin with 3 conjunctions in the year 1988. And this conjunction was in the sign of Sagittarius. Please study for yourself what was happening in the year 1988, because that what started then, it influences us, all of us now, and it will influence us until the year 2032. For example, I found out that the year 1988 was very crucial for the work of the internet and this satellite new technology. And also, this year was crucial for mass vaccination. Study this, please, to learn what is actually happening. First crisis of this conjunction between Saturn and Uranus happened in the year 1999, and then in the year 2008 and 2009. I'm not going to mention what happened in those years. They were really critical, but maybe you know what was happening. And now during the year 2021, there is going to be the next critical phase, and very, very dangerous phase, which will partly repeat in the October 2022. And the whole cycle will end in 2032. And it will end in Gemini. These two planets will meet in Gemini, which is quite a good sign, because actually Saturn and Uranus feel both very good in the Gemini sign. All these aspects are happening in mutual signs. It means that we need flexibility, change of educational institutions, that we need new ideas, that we need new medias, new communication through internet, and so on. Sorry about my voice. But changes are not happening, or are happening very slow, because there are extremely many lies by politicians and in media still. What is good about this tension is actually that there are many people who are awakening now. They're coming out of matrix, as it is called today. So there are many people who are realizing that the most important thing for them is self-education and work on themselves in a spiritual sense. This is the only way how we can overcome this crisis, because nobody else will tell us what is happening, and nobody will tell us the truth in the medias. So we need to study, and we need to work on ourselves to overcome this. Then the topic in May and June partly is still restrictions or freedom in movement. Not only the Saturn retrograde in Aquarius talks about this, but also eclipses on Gemini Sagittarius axis do the same. In May and June, we have third series of eclipses in those two signs. So let's remind ourselves. The first total lunar eclipse in this series occurs on the 5th degree of Sagittarius on May 26, while the second eclipse occurs on June the 10th in the 19th degree of Gemini. And those eclipses will mainly influence people who have planets around those degrees. In the life of individuals, this means that one 18-year cycle ends and the new one starts. You maybe know that I do not work with classical astrology, that I'm mainly involved in spiritual astrology and astrological psychology. That's why I speak so much about eclipses and transits of lunar nodes. This is very important for people who are interested in spiritual astrology, because always eclipses bring new phase in the new phase of the development of the soul in one particular incarnation in one's life. And on my web pages you will find a special astrological reading. The name of that is "What is the meaning or the purpose of your life and your existence?" If you are interested in this, you can order personal consultations with me that are based on your prenatal eclipses and on the position of lunar nodes in your horoscope. So Gemini Sagittarius axis is the axis of travel, learning, communication, and interaction with others in general. So now you see the Saturn in Aquarius limits contacts with people, and happening on these eclipses talk about the similar thing. Astrologically speaking, we will get away with this brutal plan with imprisoning people and experimenting on people, but we need a little bit more time, but things are getting better. It's interesting that this is the axis of learning, and it shows how much our children are also brainwashed. I spoke in this year and a half with many parents who said to me that their children believe in the system more than parents do. We also see with this active axis of communication that medias actually are only the instrument of propaganda. Many people did not think about that at all until last year, and now they're becoming aware of it. But it is important to know that we do not communicate only by words and through medias. We communicate by heart and by using our intuition. So we learned a lot about this, and we are actually connected intuitively, all of us who want to get out of this matrix. And this is actually the most important thing that we learn as a society, and this is our chance to win this war in peace without facing some big attacks and so on. And of course, Jupiter in Pisces speaks in favor of that also. So Jupiter will be in Pisces for only 2.5 months this year, and will stay there next year. So now we will briefly feel this transit, and we will talk about one mythological story that is connected with the transit of Jupiter in Pisces. This brings us to the story of legendary musician Orpheus. As we know, Orpheus was the most famous poet and musician in ancient mythology. The Muses themselves taught him to play the lyre. He received it as a gift from the god Apollo. With his music, he cheered and calmed both people, animals, and plants. Even the Argonauts took him with them on their mission to overcome the temptations of travel with his magical music. However, Orpheus suffered because he was not happy in love. Namely, his love, Eurydice, tragically died. Desperate Orpheus himself went to the underground world for his beloved, and along the way he saddened everyone with his music, and he did it so much that the god of the underworld allowed him to take his wife into the world of the living creatures, but with one condition: that Orpheus overcome his desire to see Eurydice himself. So that god that allowed him to take his wife was actually Pluto. This is the god of underworld, is in astrology the planet Pluto. And this planet, we know, is very active in May because it has aspects from the planets that are in Taurus. And those aspects are harmonious. So you see how everything gets well with the story of Orpheus. So the Pluto gives us the chance. But Orpheus got his wife back on the condition, as we said, that he look at her only when they both come out into the light of day. Orpheus, however, could not stand it and looked back a little before they came out in the light of day, and unfortunately, instead of seeing his wife, he saw her disappearing like a shadow. After that, since he was personally since he experienced great tragedy, he was not only a very person full of feelings, but he also developed compassion. And he helped people and was strictly against human sacrifices in rituals. This is what mythology teaches us. Watch it. Now we have this, let's say, in a way, appearance of this mythos of Orpheus through Jupiter in Pisces. And this mythos speaks about that there should not be sacrifice of people in rituals. this myth is coming in the right moment to us, and I will not explain in details why it's so important, but many of you will know why this is so important. Orpheus was considered a god-man, and many people who lived in Thracia in that time participated in the masses and mysteries who were dedicated to him. In the end, Orpheus himself ends tragically, but a great act of mercy remains behind him. You recognized in Orpheus Christos himself and some other deities who appear to be merciful and compassionate. This is the energy that is now available to all of us. Orpheus is ready to do everything for another being because he cannot live in solitude. He cannot imagine himself being alone. It is of course interesting that everything would have been different if he had more faith, more trust in what was given to him. But alas, the sad poet would not be a poet if he had acted differently. So what is the message from this myth? Regardless of the great evil that has befallen us, at us as a humanity, and which is only camouflaged by the disease in question, we have a chance to get out of this. However, we must not relax now, because the evil is very big, it's grown a lot, and it's very visible now even. And we need to continue in many years later to work on ourselves and to be conscious about that, what is really happening to us. Although it will briefly look as we have been saved, there is a period of new temptations and new experiments on people coming later. So let's learn constantly and all the time, and let's be aware it's too early to relax, even though we are entering a bit better phase, most probably. So that's all for now that I wanted to tell you about May and partly about June. Feel free to schedule personal consultations with me. You will see through my web pages what do I offer. My web pages are named Symbolic Thinking, and there you will see that I offer consultancy based on spiritual astrology, astrological psychology, also based on Feng Shui and Thetahealing. Thetahealing is a method of spiritually energetic healing, which helps people to remove old prejudice and fears. If you like this video, please subscribe to my channel, forward it to your friends and relatives, let's say, and thank you very much in advance. If you like the video, subscribe to my channel. I don't know if I said it, but thank you very much for everything in advance. Until next time, I wish you to believe in life and to consciously create and accept new forms of life.